Cashflow Diary Podcast, episode 542.
Welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast, the podcast that teaches you insider tips, tactics, and strategies for creating leverage streams of cash flow into your life. Learn from top-performing entrepreneurs, business owners, investors, and thought leaders from across the globe as they share their secrets to success. Like what you learn on this and other Cashflow Diary podcast episodes? Go to learninvestingnow.com and sign up to receive powerful tips and information that will help you succeed as an entrepreneur and investor. Now, here's your host, investor, entrepreneur, business owner, educator, speaker, author, and master facilitator of Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow game, Jay Massey.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Cashflow Diary Podcast. I'm your host, Jay Massey, and I'm glad that you are here today because we are going to talk about something that, well, I know, and my guest knows, is one of the most, if not the most, critical piece for your success, not only in business, but specifically the real estate world. I know that many of us, we're out there, we're trying to grow our cash flow. We're trying to make things happen, build a bigger, better business, and you're doing it and you're succeeding, and that's great. And also at the same time, many of you, you're like, man, if I could just figure out how to take what I'm doing in business and do it in real estate too, that would be great. And some of you are like, man, I just want to grow that real estate portfolio and make it a little bit bigger and better, but I'm still having some challenges in these specific areas because I can't find any good help. I can't make anybody do what I think is common sense. And there's just not enough common best practices out there. How on earth, Jay, can I find that particular property manager? Or maybe you are that property manager and you're going, you know what? How on earth can I find that owner that actually knows what's up and won't drive me nuts? I believe we have solutions for you today. I have with me today none other than CEO Jason Hull of DoorGrow, doorgrow.com. And some of you may actually know him from his podcast, The DoorGrow Show. What's going to be interesting today is that, well, Jason wasn't always a property manager. So we're going to get to find out the story, the journey, and most importantly, learn the lessons around entrepreneurship along the way that have allowed us, the world, to be able to know and love Jason the way that he is. So here's what we're going to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to pay attention. We're going to make sure that, yes, I know you're walking the dog and doing the dishes, but you're going to hit that mark so that you're going to bookmark those spots so that you know you can come back and listen to the gems that he's going to drop. And most importantly, right now, though, let's just welcome Jason Hull. Jason, how you doing?
Wow, that's a great intro. I really appreciate that.
Thank you. I'm glad that you are here. And I'm also excited because we're going to be talking about, well, you know, something that I'm passionate about because real estate's really important. But more importantly, it's the people and the teams that you hire that tend to make the things go well. And sometimes, well, not go so well. So I'm looking forward to that. But before I get down there, I have to ask you the same question I tend to ask everybody else the first time that they're here. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Do it.
I tend to look at today's entrepreneurs a lot like yesterday's superheroes. You know, Batman, Robin, Hulk, Wonder Woman. You get the idea. Because I think entrepreneurs and superheroes have a ton of things in common. For example, as an entrepreneur, occasionally I can envision myself using our products and services, flying around town, and saving customers one sale at a time. Also, like a superhero, though, an entrepreneur has a beginning. So if you think about Spider-Man, for example, there was a time where he was just a kid, going to school, doing his own thing, taking some photos. And then one day he gets bit by a spider, discovers he's got a superhuman ability, and now he has to choose, will I use my newfound talents for good or for evil? So my question to you is as follows. Before DoorGrow, before your podcast, before your degree in marketing, your website design, before being a property manager, before everything we know you for today, what we want to know is, who is Jason Hull?
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of a deep question. Let's sum up a whole person really quickly here. So,
No
yeah,
pressure. No pressure.
yeah, no pressure. So, yeah, I think, gosh, there's so many things I could say about everything you just said. First thing, let me just like correct something real quick.
Oh,
I have never managed a property in my life.
okay.
Yet I somehow am attracting property management entrepreneurs from all over the US and beyond asking for help in growing and scaling their businesses. So I'm more of a nerd that used to be secretly in the background helping them
Got it.
and kind of had to push myself out into the limelight to make a difference in an industry that I could see there was an obvious change needed to be made. So, but in my background, like growing up, I grew up with an entrepreneur mother. Like she
Mm,
is this amazing, loving, charismatic woman that is a real estate agent, and she's just had hustle in her since she was a little kid. She's told me stories of she saw the other boys like mowing lawns and she was doing babysitting when she was young, and she was like, they're making way more money than me. So she went around and she figured I could undercut them by $1, go door to door and steal their business and start offering to mow lawns. And so she started mowing lawns to make more money. This is, she just had that bite in her to accomplish and do things.
mm.
I didn't see myself as an entrepreneur. I didn't really know what an entrepreneur was yet. I think it was just in my DNA. I was the guy in college that decided, hey, I want a band, so I'm going to start one. I'm going to write all the music. I was the guy going door to door, pre-selling CDs at girls' dorms with a guitar in hand and a clipboard for an album that didn't exist so that I could pay for the recording time so I
Yes.
could fund an album. But I wasn't an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah, no,
I
that's
was
not
thinking I
entrepreneurial at
needed
all.
I was thinking I needed to go get a job. I was like, I'm going to finish college
Wow.
and I got to then find a job. And what sort of thrust me into entrepreneurism is I had gotten married really young,
Mm,
and the marriage fell apart. I had 2 kids and I needed to be able to have time so I could spend with them. I didn't want to
mhm,
just be Disney dad.
mm.
And and so I had to create a situation in which I had freedom and autonomy, and and so and then the other factor that kind of played into it is my employer at the time got hit by the whole financial mess back in 2006, 2007, I guess, and could no longer pay me. and so
Whoa.
and I was just doing nerdy stuff for them at the time, and then I realized they were now a client. They were now a client, and so I started reaching out and creating clients. And one of the earliest people I had helped was my brother, who was just getting started in the property management business. He had just bought a property management franchise. He was fresh out of college with his business partner. They had no doors under management, and they had this terrible website they got from corporate. And he was like, "Can you just help me figure this out? Because you're smart. Like, what do I need to do?" And I'm like, add some faces to it. That'll increase conversion rates. Let's do this and that. And he's like, can you just do it for me? Can you please just
Mm,
build me a site? I'm like,
mhm,
sure,
mhm,
but
mhm.
you're going to pay for it. He's like, okay, no problem. So I built him a website, and then suddenly all of his fellow franchisees, and this franchise had maybe, I don't know, 300 franchisees in it. And I started attracting these people that had thousands of doors. They wanted what he had. They're like, hey, what he has is better. I want that. And so really quickly, here's me, freelancer web designer, starting to do websites for people with thousands of doors. Some of these are, probably $1 million plus businesses, and then they had really great backlinks. So I was at the top of Google pretty quickly and started getting clients around the U.S. within a short time. And I was competing against Goliath, just me, you know. And there we go. Then I'm an entrepreneur, and I think I just have an insatiable desire to learn. I just always have. And entrepreneurism allows me to really explore, and it's really exciting.
Got it. Okay. So now I see how I got confused in the difference between understanding what it is you do versus being a property manager. It's more you help property managers is what it sounds like. become better versions of themselves in a public with their marketing and advertising. Am I close?
Yeah. So over the years, I've shifted more into coaching and consulting, but we still do websites. We clean up branding. We basically, what I tell property management entrepreneurs in short, when they come and ask me what I do, I say, I'm not going to teach you how to do property management.
Yeah.
I'm hoping you already know that and you're good at it. I'm going to teach you how to win. That's it. I'm going to teach you how to win. So basically what we do in short is we rehab property management companies so that they cash flow effectively, so that they have revenue, they have growth.
Got it.
And we optimize their business more for organic. So we're cleaning up their branding. I change probably 60 or 70% of my clients that come to me, I change their business name.
Interesting.
And which is ridiculous if you consider how painful or challenging or scary it is for somebody to do that. But I'm really good at helping them see, the principles that impact their decisions about what's going to make money or cost them money. And then it becomes just a financial decision, because one thing I know about entrepreneurs is they usually like to make money.
Well, yes, definitely. But what I like about what you've shared with us here is to some degree, you're in what I would call the reluctant entrepreneur category, because you weren't even you're like, I'm not one of those. That's not what I do. And then over time, you start displaying these traits. Now, I'm curious, did your mom ever suggest that, hey, son, you might be, and you like have this conversation with her? Like, no, I just need to go get a job. Was that ever a thing?
I don't know if I was reluctant. It just wasn't something that anyone had ever explained to me. I don't even know if I really was clear on what technically an entrepreneur was.
I see.
I think I'd always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I had a paper route as a kid. My mom would have us fold flyers to canvass neighborhoods for real estate as little kids. She would pay us a penny per fold. So if we folded we folded a piece of paper twice, we got 2 cents, right? Yes. So I would fold hundreds, and then she would have us go around either on roller skates or like scooters or whatever, like go around neighborhoods and just canvas and put those out. And she'd keep an eye on us and walk around a bit with us, and we would just canvas neighborhoods. So I think I was just raised with it, and no one had ever put a label on it.
Oh man, this is great because you don't I'm sure some people right now are listening like, a penny a fold, that's nothing. I mean, I'm sure that happened in somebody's head, but the principle was clearly laid down for you in such a way that you're like, okay, let's go. And you didn't care. And you got, spending time with mom is always awesome. But at the same time, this desire gets left behind, and you just keep finding ways to create opportunity. That's what I hear when you talk, is you just find ways to create opportunity relative to something that you're currently enjoying. I am curious though, did you ever actually get the concert CD album sold? How'd that work out?
I did. Well, we did create the album. We created the CD. I wrote all the music for it. I sang every song on it. And yeah, we got it recorded. And it's a pretty decent little album for being self-produced. So I was very into the Beatles at the time. So
okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Now, okay. And there's something else that you're also mentioning. The thing that thrust you, I would say, is the correct word, into considering something in entrepreneurship in a more real fashion was, the combination of kids and your employer not being able to employ you. But most importantly, I hear a deep-seated value. You just like, you know what? Working for someone else can be fine, but I have 2 kids now, and I value spending more time with them. So I'm going to become or do whatever it takes to make sure that I can do that. I'm curious to know where that comes from.
Yeah, well, I think at the core of people that are really entrepreneurial, they know deep down that they're unemployable. I mean, let's be honest. So I think I worked at HP, I worked at Verizon, I was in call centers. I did a lot of nerdy sort of jobs. I was a nerd, and tech support, stuff like that. And in every situation I was in, I think something about me is I create positive, uncomfortable change everywhere I go. It's just how I'm wired. Like I cannot be somewhere and leave things as the status quo. I don't do anything normally. Like if you could see the keyboard sitting on my desk right now, it's not even in QWERTY order. I pop all the keys off and rearrange them when I get a new computer or keyboard.
I kind of want a picture now that you said that, but okay.
Yeah, somebody can just Google if they want to see a different keyboard layout. They can
Dvorak?
look at Dvorak, yeah.
Yeah, that's the only other thing. I was like, what could it be? The only thing I was thinking was Dvorak, but okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, because, I'm the kind of guy that my brain just says, why is everybody doing it this way? Is this the best way? And if it's not, I don't care. Like conventional standards mean very little to me. There's a lot of quirky things about me, and I think entrepreneurs are quirky. You look at like Steve Jobs, or you look at different entrepreneurs. They've had weird habits. Like Steve Jobs, I wear the same clothes every day.
Preach it, brother.
I have black T-shirts.
Yeah.
I have black pants. I have a whole closet full of black pants and black T-shirts. And I just want it simple. I don't want to have to make decisions about that. And I wear black hoodies. And I've spoken. I put on a conference. I've been around lots of people in business suits. That's what I wear because I don't care. I want to be comfortable, and that's what I wear. So it's just I think ultimately as entrepreneurs, we need to allow ourselves to do what we need to do to lower the pressure and noise instead of try to play everybody else's game. And
No. I was just saying, I agree. Go ahead. Yeah, this is good.
And so, so for example, with the keyboard, I realized my wrists were hurting. I was typing a lot. I was getting my degree online at the time. I was also working, and I was typing a lot, and I was like, this seems stupid. This is really dumb. Like, why are my wrists hurting? I did, what I like to do, which is nerd out and do some research and Google, and I realized, Dvorak has 50% less movement. It would cut my movement in half. And the home row on the left hand is all the most commonly used vowels, and the home row on the right hand is all the most commonly used consonants. So there's more back and forth between the two hands. And QWERTY's history was that it was designed and developed to slow down typists because the keys used to be in alphabetical order, and they wanted to screw them up because they were typing too fast, and the typewriters couldn't handle the speed. I'm like, okay, why am I doing this? So it took me maybe about a month to get used to typing in a different format, and my wrist issues went away, and I was a lot more comfortable. And so
I like you a lot. I like this. He's like, hey, this doesn't work for me. We're going to figure out what does. So I now have this question. What was that transition moment? There's usually a moment at which, like I said earlier, the superhero recognizes, I have something special here. And now I get to choose what I'm going to do with it. And you clearly had that moment, but that moment is often, we'll call it rocky, not as smooth, or there's usually some strong emotions around it in some way, shape, or form, or some pivotal conversation. What was it like when you realized, A, my employer can't pay me, I guess they'll become a client, and then you go, maybe what I need to do is develop a service around this whole thing and do my own thing. What was that like? Hello there, entrepreneur. This is Jay Massey. I know that if you've ever gone over to the site, CashFlowDiary.com, you may have asked yourself, where on earth do you get a domain name from? Especially as you are beginning to build your bigger, better, badder business, you need a web presence. You need the email address. You need a way for people to contact you electronically so that you can stop doing the @gmail.com game. Well, the good folks over at GoDaddy have definitely supplied us with every domain that we have ever used. So what I want you to do is I want you to go over to trygodaddy.com/CashFlowDiary. Again, that's trygodaddy.com/CashFlowDiary, because it's a quick way for you to get set up to capture your domain name the exact way that you want it. They got easy search functions, and most importantly for you is that you'll be up and running today. As I said, once you get started, stay started. Don't let small little obstacles of how to get your own domain name going stop you. So again, Go to trygodaddy.com/cashflowdiary, and let's get back to the rest of the story.
Yeah. So I think really for me, it's been a longer journey than just like right in the beginning. I don't, a lot of people perceive me as a really confident guy, but I really have a strong introverted side. And I wasn't that confident guy like in school. I did a lot of performing, I did music, stuff like that, but I still had a strong introverted side. And I think for me, that confidence level, I mean, part of it happened early on working with entrepreneurs and just recognizing that they couldn't see things I could see. You know, I was like, you can't see that this is a problem, that you're branded as a real estate company and it's causing you to lose probably 50% of the deals and leads you should be because you're a property management business, but you're on the tin it says real estate, right? Or, you know, there were just things they didn't see that seemed so obvious to me. And I mean, yeah, so I think there was kind of that. I think the other thing is I'm really curious. And so with each client I would work with, I would spend, just to do a website, I would probably spend on average about 6 hours doing a planning and discovery process over maybe a period of a week or two with them, multiple sessions, getting clear on their target audience, their avatar, like, you know, what needs to be included in the website, what their avatar's pain is, what they want. And so it became really clear to me that most of the websites were focused on tenants, yet they're not hunting for tenants. They don't have problems getting tenants. They want more owners to manage properties for. And so so it just seemed obvious to me that everything was off on the websites that existed at the time. And so I think I just grew in confidence that I could help people, but I still stayed heavily in the background, really largely until, yeah. And I was also in kind of a rough marriage. I was in a marriage in which I didn't have, my second marriage, I was in a marriage in which I didn't really have belief. I didn't have somebody that believed in me. And that didn't help the confidence thing going. And so I think eventually I signed up with a business coach and I went through several different coaches. Some I was a bad fit for. Honestly, I just wasn't ready for them. Some they were a bad fit. They were, some maybe were really great marketers and terrible coaches, and I eventually got a really great business coach that I've been working with for a couple of years now. And I remember going down to meet with him in Austin, and he has a fantastic podcast, by the way, called the Momentum Podcast. His name is Alex Sharfin, and really brilliant guy. And I went down and met with him and some other entrepreneurs down in Austin, and my business was kind of like struggling. We were maybe about $300K in revenue annually at the time. I felt like an ant in the room. I was around entrepreneurs that had multi-million-dollar companies. I felt completely unworthy. My confidence just wasn't really strong. And yet when he would open up for dialogue, I would end up captivating everyone else in the room. And that was weird for me, that I was able to communicate in a way that all of them wanted to know more, and they were really fascinated about what I was talking about. I had learned a lot. I just didn't have the confidence yet to kind of put it out there. I hadn't said, hey, I'm going to change this entire industry. I'm the one to do it. I was like, somebody else should do it. Somebody that's been a property manager, maybe somebody that runs a big, huge property management franchise should be the one. And my business coach was like, who else could do it? You're the one that you care about it. You're the one that can see what needs to change. And they're everybody else's competition. Why would they help everybody? And I'm like, that's a good point, right? But I had wicked imposter syndrome. Yeah. I think we all, that's a challenge for entrepreneurs that we have to kill, is that imposter syndrome. And just, in which we don't feel like we're enough, or we're good enough, or that we qualify, or we're worthy. And we sometimes think we need to find that external validation to say that we're okay. And I think that kind of came just in working with clients. I grew in confidence. I think in situations in which I was able to finally place myself around other entrepreneurs, because I think one of the most damaging things we do as entrepreneurs is we spend too much time around non-professionals. entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
Serious. I was married
I believe
to one. And it's painful and it's difficult because we see opportunity everywhere. We see how we can change and impact the world. We want to make a difference. We want to contribute. And the rest of the world looks at us like we're crazy. We're making them uncomfortable. Why can't you leave good enough alone? Why don't they hear the struggles we go through as an entrepreneur and they say, why don't you just get a job? Like they look at us like we're crazy. And then we look at them and why don't I just slit my wrist now? And, like really, like how can you just sit there and tolerate complaining about your boss and your job and living for the weekend? Don't you want something bigger? And we don't understand them. But I think if we're around non-preneurs too much, I think it wears us down. It breaks us a little bit. I think it's really hard. And I hadn't really yet been around entrepreneurs. And I think as entrepreneurs, starting out in our early development, when we're in the earlier stages of being an entrepreneur, I think one of the biggest things that hold us back is being lonely. I think that's it. Like we're just not around other people like us to say, you're normal. You as an entrepreneur are awesome and amazing, and you can change the world, and you don't have to live by everybody else's rules.
Agreed. Now, there's something that you said that I often have thought about myself, and I know that there are people who are listening who have had that same thought at least once, because you mentioned that, yes, we desire to make a difference and we want to see change, and we're not happy with that's just not the way you do it. It should be this way. I mean, that's just how we roll. And yet we're the ones who can see the problem. And like your business coach is saying, why aren't we the ones who can resolve it? But more importantly, or said a different way, does that come across to you when you can see an issue? Does it come across to you, because I know it does for me, as a responsibility? Like, okay, I it's me. Obviously, I'm the one who sees it. This is my thing. So let me go solve this problem. And that's how it feels to me when I notice opportunity or something that's just not right that could be better.
Yeah, I think there's two sides to this. I think one, opportunity on the negative side, I think opportunity also can kill us as entrepreneurs because we do see it everywhere. And I think it can be incredibly distracting.
Yeah.
I think, there's that opportunist in all of us. And I think if we focus on too many opportunities, we don't really get to make any headway in any one. And that's a temptation and a challenge I think entrepreneurs deal with early on, is struggle to focus and to niche down. And I think on the positive side, we see that the world can be better. We can see it. We are the change makers. We are the people throughout history, entrepreneurs, throughout time, like time eternal probably, that were the ones that would move society forward. We would make everyone uncomfortable and we would change something, and we would move people towards a higher and better ideal.
Mm-hmm. Now, let me ask you this question. You could have chosen any industry to serve. Why property managers? Because I know for some of us, like I've spent so much time on as the one owning the property. This may sound funny to you, but I never considered that property managers had a problem finding owners. That never occurred to me because, well, it just never occurred to me that they had that as a business problem. Obviously, it's there because you're saying it, but as an entrepreneur, you could choose to serve anybody. Like you could have taken this skill to any industry, so to speak. And because, believe me, they're not the only one with a problem. Why property management?
Yeah, that's a really good point. I don't think there was a time in my life as a child that I woke up and said, you know what, I want to help property management business owners when I grow up. I want to get into this industry that's focused on toilets, tenants, and termites. This sounds exciting.
It's right after firemen, right? It's right after firemen.
Yes.
Right after firemen.
Right.
I understand.
Yes. Yeah. I'll either be a superhero or I will be a property management coach.
Yeah,
right? Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely.
right.
Totally right.
So no, that's a great question. I think I resisted it, to be honest, in the beginning.
Hmm.
It sort of came to me like I just started attracting them, and I tried to just help every type of business though. Still, I didn't niche out.
I see.
It took me a while. Like DoorGrow as a brand really. I started my corporation, my company back in 2008, but DoorGrow as a brand was maybe only 4 or 5 years ago, right? And so it took me a little while to I guess choose into that niche fully. And I think one, it was imposter syndrome. Like I've never done this, so I feel like I'm not the person to do it. And I think also, yeah, I think for a lot of people, it's not like the most sexy industry for some. But here's how you fall in love with property management. I think one, if you're an entrepreneur that's a little bit nerdy, property management is kind of like the systemizable, more tech savvy version of the real estate industry. It's residual income instead of the hunt and the chase for the next deal as a realtor. It's a business that can be optimized over time. It's a business that can follow the theory of constraints, and you can make processes around. And it's a business and so all of that appealed to me. And I think what I really fell in love with was not property management. It's the people that are property managers. You want to talk about resilient, innovative, like entrepreneurs, property management entrepreneurs. You cannot imagine the level of challenges and difficulty and negotiating. I don't think there's any industry like it because in terms of customer interaction, it's, I think, rated third behind retail and hospitality in terms of customer like interaction. It's heavily a people business. But in retail and in hospitality, you're not negotiating really difficult situations, not unlike a lawyer between two opposed parties as the middle person. But in property management, that's what you end up doing. So these are really, I think, some of the sharpest people. I think they're just amazing entrepreneurs to be around. And honestly, I think I just chose into doing it because I wanted to be around people that are like me, entrepreneurs. And I love my clients. I love being able to spend time with them. I feel not weird, and I really enjoy that. And I have kind of a nerdy background. And so a lot of the clients that are attracted to me, they like figuring out process and systems and technology and that sort of thing. And so I think there's just a strong resonance in the type of entrepreneur that is in that industry.
So for the person that's listening right now that happens to be a property manager, or maybe it's an owner who's currently doing his own property management in some way, shape, or form, what would you say then are the top three things you tend to assist a new client with from day one? How do they know? How can they recognize, I need Jason? And what is it that you end up doing over there at DoorGrow for them, typically in that first appointment or so, or the first solutions you guys come to the table with?
Yeah, well, let's go back to lead into that. Let's go back to the question you asked me earlier about the surprising problem.
That is still that is still a thing in my head. Like, wow, I didn't know they had problems finding me. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So every business exists to solve a problem.
Sure.
If a business is not solving a problem, they're stealing money.
Right.
So the problem that exists in the property management industry that I could see property management has two major challenges. The biggest challenge first is awareness. Well, there are a lot of people that have property, in the U.S. in single-family residential rental properties. Only about 30% are professionally managed. 70% are self-managing. Okay. The first biggest hurdle is awareness. There's just a lot of people that are not aware of what a property management company would do for them. And the average Joe on the street, if you said, "Hey, I'm a property manager," they would say, "Great, I guess you manage a property." Like they don't really know what that means. So I think there's a strong lack of awareness. to the point where property management really is relatively in the US in its infancy. So let's contrast that with Australia. In Australia, 80% of single family residential rentals are professionally managed. 80%. So, and there's reasons for that, right? There's steeper legislation there. It's more consumer focused, and a lot of that. And the word on the street is that it grew 25% in a decade. Like it grew massively. But in the U.S., property management still is kind of this ugly cousin of real estate. It has this negative perception, especially among real estate. And because the other challenges, it's property management is the number one source. Property management related issues like fair housing, challenges or mismanagement of trust funds or leases, or blah, blah, all this stuff, that property management is the number one source of complaints at most any board of real estate. Not real estate. Property management is. So everything property management, and this is why it's perpetuated heavily among the real estate industry. Realtors say, oh, property management, that's gross. Like, don't touch that. How could you do that? And so there's this really the second hurdle for the whole industry. First is awareness. The second hurdle that takes the next big portion of potential market share away is perception. Property management has a very negative perception among investors, among people that are aware of it. There's a negative perception that takes away the next big chunk of potential market share. And then after perception takes a hit, then those that are aware and they think they have a decent enough perception to think, well, at least I have to have one, or I need one, or maybe they are okay. There are some good ones. Then word of mouth captures what's left over, right? Word of mouth captures the best clients that property management might get. And then after word of mouth, the scraps that fall off my client's table, that fall off the word of mouth table, the coldest, crappiest, worst leads that are the most price sensitive, that view all property managers as the same and as a commodity, that are the worst owners and properties to build a portfolio on, in which you're going to have probably an operational cost in your property management company of 10 times higher than that of having healthy, good doors and owners. Those are the people searching on Google. That's what's left over. And most property management business owners are trying to build their business on the back of Google. Like most business owners, they think, I'm wearing a t-shirt right now. You can't see, but it says SEO won't save you. And it has a hand reaching up out of water trying to grab a life preserver. Wow. A black t-shirt with white lettering. And so this kind of a message I put out to the industry that they don't need to be playing the SEO lottery, because really search volume in the property management industry has actually been on a steady decline, according to Google Trends in the US. It's been a steady decline since July of 2011. So it's been going down, yet every marketer targeting the industry, every service provider, every web design company, they're shoving and pushing the concept that SEO is going to save them. They just need the top spot on Google. They're playing into this myth. And so all these property managers are spending marketing dollar, their hard-earned money. They're trying to run Google ads, everything to be at the top of Google, and they're not getting an ROI. They're not getting a return on that investment. And it's an incredibly expensive game that has so many potential points of failure. And you have to be a property management business usually at about 200 to 400 doors with a business development manager. You have to be making sure that all of your phone calls are answered and you're following up on every lead within the first 10 minutes to really play that marketing game. Wow. And I found most property management business owners were not at that level. And so I wanted to get them to that level, because originally I was the guy doing that stuff. I was the marketing company. I was the guy helping with, those type of things. And I realized really quickly that it wasn't working. Like, they weren't even answering their phones. Why would I send them a lead that's only good for maybe about 10 minutes? That's how long an internet lead's probably good for, maybe 15. And then 80% drop off in conversion rates if they're not going to answer their phones, right? Yeah. And so I just pivoted as a company, and I was thinking, what would I do if I were going to start a property management business? What are all the most common problems that I can see even in the largest companies? Where are the biggest leaks in their sales pipeline? So I just went, just like the theory of constraints, I just went from the beginning of the sales pipeline, which is at awareness. Mm-hmm. It's branding. Branding was costing some of them half the amount of deals and leads they could or should be getting. I've helped, so some companies do real estate and property management, By eliminating real estate from the branding, I helped double their real estate commissions, ironically, because property management is a great front-end product. Real estate is a better back-end product. People don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to find a realtor today. That sounds like exciting to me. No, they want property. They want to find buyers. They try to for sale by owner, but eventually they list with an agent. But property management, if you have a constant influx of owners, investors that may get into additional properties, constant influx of renters and tenants, you have buyers and sellers, you have bodies constantly flowing into the business. And this is the dream of a real estate company. And so we just started addressing these big leaks from branding, reputation, which is word of mouth. Their website wasn't built around conversions and targeting the right audience. Their sales process, pricing strategy played into this heavily. They were not priced effectively. They were taking on too many deals at too low of a price point. Psychologically, for example, there's 3 types of buyers. So and most of them just had one fee that's serving one type of buyer. And there was no price anchoring. Like I just started to see all these different leaks that we could shore up through the pipeline so that we could optimize their business for organic growth. And then the big secret is at the front end of this, once we get all of these leaks dialed in, their sales process, they have follow-up, like all these things are in place, what spigot should we turn on through this pipeline? Well, they could go back and do cold lead marketing, but cold leads are terrible. Conversion rate's low, even if they're a bad A. I don't know what the rating is on your podcast, so I'll be careful. If they're a bad A in sales, they don't want to. They'll only get maybe about 30% conversion rate or close rate, but most people, it's like 1 out of 10 cold leads they'll convert. And the hidden killer with cold leads in any industry or business, that's the secret the marketers don't want to tell you, is they can't give you contracts. Marketers cannot give you contracts. You can't hand dollars to a marketer and they will hand you written signed contracts or clients. What they can hand you at best, usually the furthest they can push it along, is usually a really cold lead. That's it. That's typically what they can give you, is they give you a cold lead. And this cold lead then has to be nurtured. You have to warm it up. You have to get them to know you, trust you, and like you. And cold leads convert really poorly. Usually you'll get maybe 1 out of 10, right? The hidden killer, though, with cold leads is time. This is the hidden killer with cold leads that small business owners don't realize. Time on a cold lead is at least twice as much time as a warm lead, or maybe 3 times as much. So I found clients, when I would ask them, how much time do you spend warming these people up, calling them, meeting them at the property, they say in total in my sales cycle time, 3 to 6 hours to close the deal. How long does it take you a warm lead? I was getting answers like 15 minutes, maybe an hour. It was like half the amount of time. And these small business owners, if say you give them 10 leads in a week, and it's going to take them 2 to 3 hours to do all the follow-up necessary, and they're going to get maybe 1 or 2 deals out of it. That's a full-time job. They don't have the time as small business owners to do that if they're also the main person doing the selling, right? And so they just didn't have the bandwidth to do it. So it wasn't even possible for me to give cold leads to clients and have them win that game. They didn't have the time. They really were part-time crappy salespeople that had maybe about 10 hours a week to focus on that piece. So I had to create a system that would allow them more warm leads. So instead, at the front end of this pipeline, what I teach clients to do is to go do prospecting. They're 70% self-managing. There's so much blue ocean in property management, and yet everyone's fighting over the coldest, crappiest, worst leads that fall off the word of mouth table that are searching on Google in the bloody red water. And it's created this false sense of scarcity that's so strong in the industry that everybody feels like the industry is scarce. Yet they're 70% self-managing, and none of them are really happy doing it.
I've just never considered. I have been doing real estate for over a decade, and I have never even considered this concept from the property manager's perspective in this way. I mean, I've always considered them partners. I've never wanted the lowest guy. I've always tried. They're such a critical piece. Some of the things that you said, I'm like, why would somebody bargain basement shop for a property manager? That's just silly. You don't understand. You can't do that. That's not going to work long term. But I've never thought about the fact that they would have trouble finding the quality owners. And just hearing you describe their world, it's like, oh wow, yeah, I can see why that would be a challenge. I'm curious though, when a property manager is out there and trying to make it work, I'm just going to throw it out there. What could we do as owners from your perspective to like, how can the good owners find let the good property managers know that, hey, yeah, I would love to have you?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge I usually hear is that there aren't any good property managers. Like, how do you find one that's good?
Yes.
Most owners feel completely unsafe. Like, the industry has a really bad reputation as a whole. So one of the concepts I teach, and all of these principles apply to really any industry, right? In any industry, branding has an impact, reputation has impact, pricing strategy has an impact. There's nothing I'm doing for this industry that is like only related to this industry. I think the challenge the industry has, though, is just it has a lot less awareness. But I think that also means there's a lot more opportunity. There's huge opportunity in property management. If we were to grow even remotely close to how Australia's grown in a decade, that would mean the industry in the U.S. would double. I think property management could be as big as the real estate industry here in the U.S. There's so much potential. I don't think it's been tapped. I think property management in the U.S. has artificially been kept small. And I think that it is really a business category that's in its infancy. I mean, if you look at business categories that are relatively new in the U.S., you've got marijuana and vaping and, stuff like this that are maybe Bitcoin or, cryptocurrency. Like, there's these fledgling industries. Property management's been around a long time, but it's still in its infancy. And so there's huge potential there to grow. And so I think there are a lot of bad owners. I mean, that's true too. The accidental investors, they didn't really want to have a rental property, but they needed it. Like and they just want to get rid of it after a year. So if a property manager builds their portfolio on those type of doors, which some do, they have to replace every single client every single year.
Yeah, that's an untenable situation. That would
not
work
so
out.
You'll find property managers, they fall into this first sand trap of 50 units or so. So one question you can ask them is like, how many doors do you have under management? If they're in the 50 or 60 door category, and then I call that the first sand trap. So that's one of my key avatars that I want to help, is to get them out of that first sand trap, because they're in a space that I call that the solopreneur sand trap, where they're doing everything in the business. They've taken on too many clients at too low of a price point. And this applies to any industry. As a small business owner, you take on too many clients at too low of a price point, and you back yourself into a financial corner, and you take on the worst clients, right? Because you're needy, and your operational costs with bad clients are 10 times higher than that of having good clients. Easily, right? One bad property or a bad owner that tries to micromanage you is easily 10 times the operational cost, time, and attention and stress as one good door or one good owner. Easily.
Yeah, got it. 100%.
And so if you build a portfolio of that, you're stuck. You're backed into a financial corner. You can't afford to hire anybody, and you're losing as many doors as you're getting on in a year. And you're stuck. And so sometimes I have to tell them to do really painful stuff, like fire customers in order to create space.
Yeah, that makes 100% sense. Now, for those that have listened this far and want to find out more, about what you've got going on, what's going to be the best way for them to track you down?
Yeah, so I love connecting with other entrepreneurs. And so a really easy way for them to connect with me, I'm on every social channel probably that exists. Because I'm nerdy, as King Jason Hull, Hull. And so they can connect with me as King Jason Hull on any social channel, especially Facebook. And then if they're curious, if they're in real estate and they're really considering getting into property management, they've managed rental properties, they feel like they know how to do it, but they want to grow that side of the business and maybe feed their real estate side, or they're a property management entrepreneur that's been struggling at doors and they want to make a difference, and grow, then they can just reach out to us at DoorGrow.com.
Okay. I've got a question. I just got to ask now, because I wasn't going to do this, but I got to ask. And
Do it.
So one of the things, like my entire world when it comes to real estate is all around the whole world of short-term rentals. It's what we do. It's what we teach. It's how our students have achieved success. There's one of the interesting things is that when we're interfacing with individuals, we often get the question, well, why don't I just get a property manager? I'm like, you don't understand. What we are talking about is completely different than what a property manager would typically do. I'm just curious if the whole idea of short-term rentals or things of that nature, because that being able to add that, if property managers took that on, they would they'd be able to solve some of their revenue issues for sure. Is that something you're seeing happening in any way with your clients?
Yeah, so I think there is a trend of short-term rentals coming into the space. I think that's even so. If long-term rental property management is in its infancy, I think that's even younger, right? And so there are property managers, especially in more resort-like areas where vacation rentals are more popular. I think all of them have some, like they get into that, especially the larger management companies, just by nature of having a larger business and lots of different investors, they're going to have some short-term rentals, and short-term rentals make a lot of sense for them. I mean, it's a lot of turnover. It's a lot more work, but it also can be a lot more payout for them. So there is a trend, I think, shifting towards that.
Yeah, no, I just asked because in order to do it effectively, there's just specialization that's required, and which is that, and that's why we just stepped up and started doing it, because it was like we couldn't find the property manager that could do a good a job as we have learned to do and now teach others to do. So just like, you know what, we'll just do it ourselves. And that's what's happening. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, man, they're missing an opportunity. If they would just understand some of these things that we're doing, I think it would work well. I was just curious. It's been in the back of my head. I'm like, I wonder, considering you're helping them put their services together. I was just wondering if that was something.
Yeah, Jay, be careful, because that is the story that almost all of my clients tell me.
Yeah. So
you may end up in this industry, but that's what they all tell me. They all come to me and they're like, well, I started this business X number of years ago, and it was because we were investors and we couldn't find a property manager that was good enough to do things the way that we needed it done. And so we started one, and they're all bad and we're good. Like that's I hear that almost every day.
Oh man, I love it. Okay. As we wind down, I've got a final question for you, because I'm really curious to hear your answer, because here's what I know. I know that individuals, they started the call in one spot, and now as we're ending, they're in a different spot, and they're at what I like to call the precipice of decision. It's where they go, you know what, that's it. I can do this. I can make this happen. Maybe they are a property manager. Yeah, I can. I should call Jason. That's exactly what I need to do. I need to track him down, figure this out. They're drawing that proverbial line in the sand. They're saying that's it, and now they're going to be different. Now, Jason, like I know, that when we make those types of decisions, we often have a companion, and it's a companion that comes in the form of a voice that says things like, you good and well, last time you tried anything, it didn't really work out. What on earth are you thinking about? And oh my gosh, no one's going to buy anything from you. No, you're not going to be able to get any clients whatsoever. So why don't you just go back to your job? And for some people, they're related to that voice. So my question to you is as follows. Let's pretend that this time it's going to be different. This time they're going to do exactly what you suggest, and they're going to do so in the next 24 to 48 hours. What would you suggest that they do?
What should they do in the next 24 hours? Well, I think if somebody has a voice, especially if it's an external voice, saying, you don't have what it takes, you can't do this, you need to play it safe, they need to find another voice. And I think the truest voice that we all have is the voice deep down. That's never the voice that we have deep down. Like when somebody says, oh, deep down, I knew it would be like this, or deep down, I knew I should have done this, or deep down, I just knew it was the right move. The voice deep down, I think you can call that the voice of God. You can call that your intuition. You can call it your gut. But I think that voice deep down is the truest voice. And that's the only voice we really should be listening to. And you need you need to find somebody. So let me close an open loop I left open earlier. Okay. So I mentioned how I was down in Austin. I'd met with my business coach for the first time down there. I was around all the other entrepreneurs. I felt like an ant in the room. I was sharing ideas. They were resonating with it. And my business coach asked me to describe what I did. And he said, oh, that'll never work. And then I explained how much money I was making and what I was doing. And so he understood it. And he's like, he looked at me and he said, Jason, you have a $20 million company and you don't even know it. You want to know what I started doing? I started crying. I had so little validation. I had so much resistance from spouse, I just had no support around me in terms of being connected to entrepreneurs. I started crying in front of a room of other entrepreneurs. I needed that in that moment badly. Fast forward in a year, I had 300% growth. We were $1 million company.
Nice.
In about a year. And I was crying, and it was like a cathartic thing that somebody could see what I felt deep down and they believed in me. And I don't know if there's anything more powerful than that, to be seen for who you really are. And I think that is the kind of love or energy that we all need as entrepreneurs in order to grow. We need that belief.
100%. I definitely appreciate the journey that you have been on. And I thank you for taking the time to, distill your knowledge down in such a way that you could then share it and become the person that's capable of sharing it and influencing an industry that's very close to my own heart. Because at the end of the day, real estate it's where it's been at for us for quite some time. It's where we're going to stay. But the more that you enable property managers to do what they do and find the customers that they need, the better I think it all gets for everyone. And just let me be the first to say thanks for taking the time to share your knowledge, wisdom, and insight here with us today at the CashFlow Diary.
Jay, it's been an absolute pleasure. And, in line with what you just said, I really do believe deep down that good property management can change the world. The impact that they can have in that industry is massive. They're affecting homes, families on the tenant and the owner side. They're affecting people's cash flow. They're affecting their finances. They're affecting real estate investors that got into real estate investing with the myth that it could be turnkey, right? And I think the impact is massive. And I think that's what gets me excited about the industry. And I think we're contribution-focused beings as entrepreneurs. We want to have impact. So I appreciate you allowing me to share that message and to be here on your show.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, you know what time it is. It's time for you to move at the speed of instruction. What does that mean? That means get over to doorgrow.com. That means go listen to his podcast. That also means connect with him. He said he wants to talk to you. It's very simple, ladies and gentlemen. And one of the things that I hope you learned from today's episode is when you see a need, it's probably your responsibility to go fill it, period. And just figure it out along the way. You don't need to understand everything at the beginning, but over time you can get there. But most importantly, as you heard and I heard, you want to follow that path, follow that voice that is telling you there's greatness inside. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been fun talking to you today. I look forward to talking to you soon. Until next time.